Welcome to Best New Releases, the podcast where we interview the authors behind publishing's best new releases. And I am your host, Hannah Begbie. I am really delighted to have my very first guest on episode 1 as the brilliant Beth Morrey. Beth Morrey is the author of 4 novels. Her debut novel, Saving Missy, was a Sunday Times bestseller and longlisted for the Authors Club First Novel Award. Her second novel, Em and Me, was published in February 2022 and is published in America as Delphine Jones Takes a Chance. Her third novel, Clover Hendry's Day Off, was published last January, and her latest, Isabella's Not Dead, came out yesterday. Welcome, Beth.
Thank you very much.
Can I just say, not only are you a brilliantly talented author, but you're very patient and kind for coming on this incredibly unprofessional podcast, because I've just taken my mic out of the box and I don't really know how it works. So a part of the professional setup of this podcast is that I've got a Zoom account that will cut you off in about 32 minutes. A little bit like those digital parents' evenings. Have you had those?
You see, yes, and I'm a big fan. Just, it's like somebody wagging a finger. I like this Zoom imposed deadline. I'm very comfortable with it.
So what we need to just make sure is that you're not in the middle of the most important sentence of your life.
Yes.
You know.
No, or that would be a massive cliffhanger.
That would be a big cliffhanger. I had it on a parents' evening the other day where the geography teacher said, the thing about little Timmy is... I don't know who little Timmy is. Little Timmy is not my son, but you get the point. Shall we start by, I wanted to ask you, in the last few days,
yes,
what has made you either laugh or cry or think?
Well, I don't know if this is an indication that I watch too much television. I do watch too much television, but all the things that occur to me are TV programs that I'm watching that are doing different things for me. So the program that made me think, I'm rewatching The Crown from the beginning. And I watched the whole series right up to the crappy final series. And I remembered how much I loved the first series. And I thought, I'm just going to watch it again. And the reason I love it is because it keeps showing me bits of history that I know in the vaguest, most shallow way. And it makes me think about those things again. So I'm just up to George abdicating in 1936 and thinking, oh my God, he abdicated. It was really bad.
And do you think it do you think it sort of improved your experience of it watching it a second time round?
Yes, it really does, because I have to get on Wikipedia and look up stuff that I was only sort of have this vague awareness of. So I'm really enjoying it. And I think I might just carry on right the way through. So that made me think.
Yeah.
And then
brilliant.
What were the other two?
Well, you can choose one of those. So you can give me a laugh or a cry. I mean, you have just had your 4th novel published, and that can be a bit of an emotional roller coaster. But
I don't do stuff like make myself cry when I write or cry when I unbox or anything like that, because I'm a bit of a robot.
also, Beth, that would be quite weird, would it not? Unboxing your cardboard box and then breaking down, full on breaking down for the camera.
Well, my books arrived the other day, and my husband said, "Aren't you going to do one of those unboxing videos?" And I said, "No, I literally can't, because I'll just be too. I'll be too businesslike, thinking about other things that I need to do.
Yeah,
and I won't make it a good video." Yeah. So I just didn't do it. But I did cry at. We discovered that there's a new series of Grand Designs that we didn't know existed, and we were very excited. And then we started watching, and there's like an old home video montage at the beginning of this couple who lived in this house, and then he died, and then she's like going to leave the house and build her own new house. And both of us were sobbing at the montage. I can't take like old family film montages. So I just cried and cried at that.
Wow. So we've got a lot of TV.
Yeah.
What's the best thing you've eaten in the last couple of days?
Well, yesterday, my editor very kindly took me out for a very nice lunch at a lovely French restaurant. And we had eclairs, but I'm not, they were delicious, but I'm not really a sweet person. I like savory. And so I would choose, there was like a lamb sausage flatbread,
Very nice.
um, which I really, really liked. I'm a very savoury person.
Oh, very, very nice. And tell me, finally, I don't mean finally before the Zoom cuts off, because that would be a short podcast. Finally, what is the most mundane thing you've said to yourself in the last 24 hours? Or to
Um,
anyone else?
I said it to myself and my friend. So, my friend told me that this is so mundane. I'm so embarrassed. My friend told me that Lidl has started its summer sale of swimming kit, like it sells really cheap wetsuits and things. And she said it started, and I thought, oh, must take myself to the middle of Lidl to check out the swimming stuff that I don't need and I won't buy. I'll literally just wander up and down and look at it.
I mean,
Fairly mundane.
on a scale of 1 to 10, but not mundane when what you
It's
do
quite mundane.
is swim. And also, and I want to talk to you about your swimming podcast later. Let's go back to your transition into writing. You similarly to me worked in television.
Mm,
And when you were creative director at RDF, I'm very much assuming you were in an office with lots of people, surrounded by lots of people. How
yeah.
did you find that transition from working with lots of people to sitting in a room on your own writing novels?
I sort of loved and hated it at the same time. That I really loved working with people in telly because I think they're the best. I just think they're so
Mm.
funny and dark and flippant and brilliant and hardworking. And so I really enjoyed the sort of banter of office life. Um, but I hated meetings, so many meetings, just endless about things that you didn't need to have meetings about. So I was very thrilled to leave the meetings behind. And I also liked leaving the management side of it, which I was absolutely useless at. So I was really glad to get rid of that from my life. But then the kind of, it's not loneliness, but the kind of aimlessness of writing life sometimes leaves you feeling a bit like a lunatic and not being able to dress up to go to the office. I just
Mm.
wear quite crappy clothes and I do so I miss the camaraderie of the office and I miss the dressing up.
And do you, I feel very similarly about that. Do you feel like there was some training in your work in television when it came to generating ideas for your novels?
Absolutely. The main thing was that I was a treatment writer mainly. That's the thing I liked the best. And what that taught me is to churn out stuff really quickly and efficiently. And touch wood, I've never suffered from writer's block because the idea of that in telly would be ridiculous. So I learned to just get something down, anything, however crap, and be quite relaxed about it because you're always going to be able to improve it. So that really, really helped, I think, that sort of training ground. Um, and with the ideas, I sort of didn't realize that books worked so similarly to TV because I thought it was much more sort of highfalutin and highbrow, that you just wrote about what was in your heart. And I think increasingly in today's market, they're looking for those high concept pitches to punch through. And so then I kind of reverted back to my TV training and imagined myself pitching an idea to a Channel 4 executive. And that's how a lot of your book pitches now work.
Yeah, so sort of honing down your idea into the essence of the elevator
Mm,
pitch, right? And then the
yes.
proposition and working out then it's often a very difficult prospect, right? Because within that you have to also not only imply a really sustainable
Mm,
idea, but somehow some sense that there is a structure and a story arc to that, which is there are plenty of jumping off points, right? But in order for that to sustain a story, that is a huge piece
mm.
of work.
A really, really hard job, I think. And while I don't have writer's block, I do have ideas block. And I
Yeah.
think partly because I'm so used to interrogating ideas to death and saying they're crap, because that's what we did a lot in telly. But you're quite right about sustainability, about not mistaking a top line thought and thinking, oh, this is clever and simple and brilliant. Well, it might be thin and it might not sustain over, 80, 90,000 words. So coming up with that idea that's catchy and hooky, but will also have the meat to sustain a whole story. That's the hardest bit.
It's very, very difficult. And so it felt like with Isabella's Not Dead, that felt like a genre departure for you. Is that accurate to say, in as much as there's a more detective element to the story? So it would be, I'd love to know how you generated that idea and how you interrogated that idea in order for it to become something as robust as it is. It's a wonderful book. I recommend it to everybody. The
Thank
voice is
you.
brilliant. It's a very propulsive read. So two questions in one very long paragraph.
Well, I was actually to give the lesson in ideas, I was writing another idea, which I think really suffered because I thought it was quite a good headline. But when I got into it, I thought, I don't know what the end point of this is. And I don't really think it's just not going to sustain. And I started to panic and I couldn't fix it. I just couldn't fix the idea. And I decided I was going to have to bin it. But I didn't want to go back to my publisher going, I can't do it. I can't do it. And I was in a really quite bad place. I was panicking. And then I watched The Banshees of Inisherin. Oh, I felt such a deep connection with it. And I love lots of films, but there's not always a film where I'm watching it thinking there's something happening to me here. And
Yes,
I really felt it profoundly. And then, but it's very male film. And I started thinking, well, what would the female version of that broken friendship look like? And then I realized it had happened to me and that I could tell that story. So the two departures is this is quite strongly autobiographical. And then secondly, you need that kind of page turning quality. And so it became like a kind of mystery as well. And the way that I describe it is it's a sweeping love story, but about platonic friendship. And then it's a murder mystery about the death of that friendship. And I had to kind of structure it in a way like a murder mystery with clues and, a bit of a baddie element. It was really hard. I've never done that before. And I found it quite a challenge, but, it's nice 4 books in to try and push yourself in a slightly different direction.
definitely. And you've got that, you've absolutely got that structure. And with it, you've married this incredibly engaging, warm narrator as well. So you've got those two things coming together and this cast of characters that surrounds her, which inform her choices along the way also. So I think it's a really wonderful combination of elements. And did you have a big whiteboard up on your office wall where you plotted twists and
No,
turns?
I feel really bad about this because you get people who do like the whole mad post-it wall. I have this really weird thing where I really have to know what happens at the end. I have to have this kind of tonal sense of what happens at the end. And then I have a few ideas for some set pieces that are quite vague. And then I just start and I feel my way there. And I have planned stuff in the past, and that's never made it to publication because I end up being too stilted and too rigid, and it doesn't get to breathe and be organic. And I kind of like the madness that sets in, and that kind of writing your way into the Edna O'Brien electric charge. If I haven't planned, and if I let my characters do what they want,
And
so
how many drafts after that stage do you then, how many does it take to then nail the final structure that ends up in your
it's
published
hard
novel?
to say because I edit as I go along. So the way that when you start a new chapter and you think, oh, I can't be asked, I I trick myself into doing it by going
Yeah,
back to the chapter before and editing that.
yeah.
And then I kind of get into the edit and then I think, oh, I might carry on a bit. And before I know it, I've written the next chapter. So I'm constantly redrafting as I go along. So it's quite hard to say by the time it gets to the finished piece exactly how many
Mm.
redrafts it's gone through. My first drafts are epically rubbish because I'm so slapdash and I just don't care. And I'm always leaving problems for myself, thinking, oh, it'll be fine. And then I hate myself when I get to the copy edit.
For me, character character, you'll write your way through character first and then
Mm,
story. It's like building something from the inside out, isn't it? And somehow
yeah.
the weather and the light's got to come last.
And that is the fun bit and the
Mhm.
magical bit, but then you have to do all the boring bit. And I remember right at the end when we were doing the sort of pernickety bit of the edit, uh, I remember because it's set in various timelines and she's going backwards and forwards in terms of remembering the friendship. And I was thinking things like I'd had a dinner, I don't know, back in like 2014 or something. And I suddenly thought, oh my God, would she have been pregnant at that moment? So I can't have her drinking as much as she would have been. And you end up bogged down by these details that you really should have worked on before.
And again, like coming back to the business of colleagues and working in an office prior to being a novelist, I imagine you had, along with these many meetings you had, plenty of occasions where you sat in an office and brainstormed these narrative ideas and somehow getting those things out and talking about them to somebody else really starts to sort of make sense of them, doesn't it? And cleanse them. And then you can approach your desk and then you can talk about it.
And I was resistant at the time to things like that, and I am now. And I know it's a fault in me. I never wanted to have brainstorms. I'd think, oh, I'll just think it out myself. Can't
Yeah.
be bothered with that. And then we'd have a brainstorm, and I'd think, oh, actually, that was really beneficial. And then sometimes my editor or my agent will make a suggestion about something. And I think, no, no, how dare you say that? It's not wrong. And then I have to come to and go, oh, actually, that's a really good suggestion and actually makes it better. And I'm always really grudging about collaboration. I'm terrible.
I do wonder whether that is just the process of something percolating a bit, isn't it? This where I just often imagine these new ideas coming from agents and editors and other writers and newspapers and books, and I can visually feel them moving sometimes, just
Yes.
a bit downwards and just like,
Sinking
oh,
down gradually.
stop, stop, and then it arrives. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I character, I think, is often one of those parts of writing that does require that quiet, doesn't it? And that kind of, I know you walk a lot in the park because we often wander in the same park
Yes.
with our doggies. And I think sometimes that process, whether you're walking or in your own room, thinking about character and allowing them to come to you, is quite a solitary process. I don't know whether you feel the same about that, but I'm really interested to hear about the character of Gwen and how and when she started to talk to you and how you built her and how because her voice is so distinct and so engaging.
I'm so embarrassed to admit this. I'd love to tell you that I worked really hard on this. It is just me. And with the other characters, I really worked on them and I really thought about them and I really worked on the nuance of it. And with Gwen, it is just me wittering on. And I want to come across as a deeper writer than that. But it is the closest to me that any of the characters have been. So the only difference would be is that she would sound Northern. I am Northern, but I don't sound it. And she would sound it. But yeah, that's it.
But Beth, when you say it's you, I mean is that voice that comes from when you sit down and you write and you're four novels in now, and so actually is that rightly when you say you, do you mean that's your writerly voice as well, isn't it? That's the voice that you have honed over a long period of sitting at your desk and it's that kind of musicality that comes through in books that you recognize Marianne Keyes and you recognize a Jojo Moyes and you recognize your books from a mile off because that the musicality of your voice is very distinct. So do you feel like that really is you in terms of the characteristics that you've presented in the novel, or do you feel like that's writerly, Beth? That's your
Well, it's
writer's
very
voice.
kind of you to say that. And the honest answer is I'm not quite sure.
Mm,
Because I find that the only way that really works for me is to write very instinctively without thinking.
mm.
And then after I've done that, I think very carefully. But I have to approach it thoughtlessly or like seemingly thoughtlessly. There's obviously kind of subconscious thoughts going on from my walks in the park, but I have to almost not think when I write because if I think too much, then I panic and then I can't just flow.
I completely agree with that. And do you ever have those moments where you look back on a piece of writing where you have thought consciously and thought that sounds really inauthentic, that
Mm.
sounds clunky and it doesn't flow. It sounds slightly like slightly like some officious David Brent version of yourself. I'm not saying you think this. I often
Yeah,
think that
yeah.
it comes across as a very, if I've been sort of consciously thinking this is what I must write, the tone is all wrong. It's kind of, you're completely right. It comes from a different place in the
Yeah.
body, doesn't it? It doesn't come from here. It comes from up here. And the brain, I think, has a slightly different tone of voice to the soul, doesn't it? It's a bit bossier. It's the
Yes.
editorial voice. It's a kind of, what are you doing? No, don't say that. That sounds idiotic.
But I have to let myself say whatever I want to begin with, and
Yeah.
then the sort of editor voice takes over. And I think, I don't know about you, but I get better at hearing my editor's voice in my head going, don't do that.
Mm,
And I can rein myself in much better. So probably, I'm not sure about the authorial voice, but the editorial voice in my head is getting more kind of refined as I go along. But I'm kind of trying to keep the authorial voice quite naive, because
mm,
I find that that's what works best for me.
mm. And I think that's a really liberating moment. And it's also a, a very joyful moment. Writing is a complete joy, isn't it? When you're just allowed
When
to
it,
sort of play.
yeah, when it works like that and you
Mm,
find yourself
mm,
deep, I'm always happiest when I'm about 50,000 words in and I've done the bulk of it and I'm coasting to the end and I know exactly where I'm going and
mm,
I'm in full control. And
mm.
it's like, I'm managing a team of runaway horses and they're joyously careering to the finish, but I know I'm in charge. We're having a lot of fun, but I've got it. And that's really good fun. And when you can write your way into that, that's a real thrill.
I
It's the
think
best bit.
that's a really, really interesting way of putting it. It's a combination of being in charge of the game, isn't it? That kind of,
Mm.
so the playfulness and the control of that. So if that final third of the book, 60% of the way in, is your most joyful moment, what's the most stressful part of a draft for you?
When you get the structural edits back, it's awful.
Mm,
I just find it so depressing. And I'm such a child about it. Because I get that letter, the editorial letter back. And I honestly think that they should say, this is perfect. Do not change even a word. And it's always such a bitter blow when you're like, oh, for God's sake, that's a lot of work. I don't want
yeah.
to unpick that.
And again, do you feel like that is again, it's like absorbing well, I mean, it's like absorbing bad news sometimes, isn't it? That you have
Mm.
to get through the initial shock and blow and then go, okay, fine, what's next? What's the plan here? What do I do? And then tear it off piece by
It's
piece,
stages of
right?
grief, like
Yes.
denial and anger and all of this. And
That's so-
it's awful. And like I say, I'm such a child about it. But there is a moment when I'm in the edit where it's a bit like a jigsaw puzzle. And then it starts to come together. And I think, oh gosh, actually, I think there's a
Mm,
chance they might have made this better.
mm,
And then it's really nice because I think, oh, I found a way through this.
mm.
And in a way, that's probably what I believe is the biggest skill of writing, is appeasing your editor and pleasing yourself at the same time and finding a
Mm.
way through that where you're doing it your way, but you're doing what they want.
And 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 then also at the end of it, almost coming up with something that is better than the sum of those parts, right? So that you end up with
Yes.
something that is just a wonderful synergy of that external influence and what you want to do and going, actually, this is way better than if
Mm.
I just sat in a cave and put it on some parchment. Hey, also about you've got so Saving Missy was your first book.
Mm.
Do you feel like the process of writing those books and developing those ideas have changed? Because I know the idea for Missy came up when you were walking around the park. Was it when your kids
Mm.
were very little?
Yeah, and it had a much longer gestation than any of my other books, which is often the case for a new author, that your first book is one that you take time over and you have a lot of time over. And then the subsequent books are written to a deadline, so are quite different. And also, you don't write the first book with anyone kind of metaphorically breathing down your neck because you're just on your own. And I don't know what that means for the writing, because actually, I like I say, I do think it's quite healthy for me to have my editor's voice in my head, because it keeps me in line a little bit. But that first one, you're sort of out on your own. And it is very exciting. But also, I mean, just to have a little bit of a moan, the industry's obsession with debut voices is, I mean, I know I benefited from it myself, so it's rich for me to complain about it. But it's annoying to value debut voices when, in a way, that's you at your most rubbish as a writer, because you're just starting out. You would hope that with each subsequent book, you would get better, and the books would get better. But I think there's quite a tendency to sort of value the new over the sort
Yes.
of seasoned.
Yes. Do you also, just in terms of looking at your debut and now Isabella and and Me and Em in between, do you feel like there are themes that you keep coming back to?
Yeah.
What would you name your principal theme?
Um, Kind of coming of age, like women at any point in their lives kind of having a major rethink and going,
Transitions. Yeah.
yes, going from one thing to the other, motherhood, constant obsession. And also because I suppose it's partly a necessity, because if you have a kind of brand to your writing, you can't write about something completely different because your readers might be kind of confused and put off. So I kind of end up circling the same themes, but what I try to do is offer readers who like my writing one similar thing, you'll like this bit, but then try and have a little bit of evolution. So, for example, Isabella's Not Dead is quite epistolatory. It's told in kind of letters and emails and postcards and things, to give and restaurant reviews as well, to give a kind of different direction and different tone to the book. So I think I'm trying to kind of offer a similar experience and a different one at the same time.
Um, and I've just got this the parents' evening ticker tape at the top of
Yeah, I
my
can see
screen
it.
going, you haven't got very much time left. I want to just ask you quickly also about your wild swimming podcast, because you and Marianne Levy are obviously having so much fun with it, both in the reservoir and recording your podcast. Are you finding that to come full circle back to like working in an office with other people? Are you finding that a nice balance to writing books?
It's been really fun, and we decided to do it because there's obviously a kind of weird ebb and flow to the writing life where you're sometimes very busy, sometimes waiting for notes or a new idea or something, and you feel a bit at a loose end. So we wanted a focus for those times, and we also wanted something that we're completely in charge of, that we can do what we like with. And we also wanted something that we didn't take too seriously, because I try not to take my writing too seriously. It's not, brain surgery, but you feel so personal about it and so thin-skinned. And we are quite joyously buoyant about our swimming podcast. We'll boast about it to people. We, will approach it kind of really joyously and have a laugh with it. And that's a very different feeling to writing, where I'm scared and daunted and berate myself. So it's been quite a joy, really.
And it's just with somebody else as well, isn't it? With a
Yes. Yeah.
friend and having loads of fun. I thoroughly recommend it. It's called Wild Swimming Wangers. And
Because
it's
we wang on.
because you wang on and on and on. And it's wherever you get your podcasts.
I
Is
think
that
so.
is
That's
that
what we would
accurate to
say.
say? Is that
I
what
think it's
was
very
said?
easy to get hold of.
I want to ask you a quick fire round questions.
Ooh.
What advice would you give a budding writer who wants to transition from one career into the novel writing life?
Well, I always give the same advice with this, which is that if you write, you're a writer. And it's about putting the words on the page. So many people say it, and it's really, really true. It's about getting down the story and not just talking about it. Or maybe, you might have even written the draft, and you're kind of just tinkering, and you're just going to tinker for the rest of your life. You have to just put it out there and accept that we have all had rejections, and we will all get rejections, and you keep getting rejections. And you have to just keep going if you really want it. And if you do that, I think whether you're published or not, you are a writer. I know so many people who haven't been published who are much better writers than me. It's about luck and opportunity and slog and being there at the right time. So just carry on.
Very good advice. Quick fire, cake or quiche?
Oh, I said I was savoury, but cake because I'm allergic to quiche.
Are you? God.
It's got mustard in it.
So you're allergic to mustard rather than
Yes.
the component parts of a quiche.
Lots of quiche has mustard in. Avoid quiche.
Oh wow, mustard. That's interesting. Swim or sleep?
Oh, that's very hard because I love both.
Mm.
I want both, please.
Sleeping in the reservoir, ideally.
That could be dangerous.
I think I know the answer to this one. Oh, maybe I don't. Dog or cat?
Well, it's obviously dog. I have two amazing dogs, but I have a cat who visits regularly, and I do love him dearly.
It's not a cat you own. Is it just a
No,
visitor?
he just comes round a lot.
And do you chat to him and feed him and
More than that, we're full on snogging, me and Crumpet. We love each other deeply, and it's very nice to learn to love a cat. It's been a nice experience.
oh I think that's an entirely new subject for a new podcast. I think
Learning to love a cat.
learning to love a cat and cat people and dog people, very
Yeah.
interesting subject. And finally, cinema or conversation?
Ooh, conversation, I think. But I do love both.
Depends on the
Yeah.
mood.
Yeah, conversation.
We got 2 hours left. Can you
2 hours.
imagine? Can you imagine it's the world's longest podcast and we just sat here like a filibuster and talked forever? Thank you so much. Tell me, what are you working on now? Just to fill that last 2 minutes.
I've got a new idea and it's quite a radical departure. But I figure, with the evolution of everything and, talking about high concepts and things, I've got to push myself. So I've got this new idea and I'm staring down the barrel of it.
Oh, and how are you feeling? Positive?
I think the idea is great. Whether I can do it would be a challenge, but that's
Is
got to
it-
push yourself.
Is it going to be sort of like a Marvel film? Are you going full on like and breaking the mold?
No, but it's not quite as warm as my previous ideas. So.
Very, very interesting. Beth Morrey, thank you so much. Congratulations on publication for yesterday. I wish it the very best of luck and good luck with your next idea. And
Thank you very
much.